We know that today Jake Sullivan went to Ramallah to see the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. There he heard Mahmoud Abbas call for an urgent ceasefire, call for Washington to use its influence to stop Israel, to pressure Israel to stop its attacks on Gaza. And he also said forcefully that Gaza was part of the Palestinian territories and there's no division between the West Bank and Gaza. So that was his message. I imagine it could have been quite a tense meeting because it has been said, we have heard Jake Sullivan saying that, yes, what Washington wants is the Palestinian Authority involved in Gaza on the day after, as they call it, whether it's the day after this conflict or the day after Hamas, that they want to see the Palestinian Authority involved, but a different Palestinian Authority, revamped, revitalized, updated with a new method of election. And I think that's a reference to Mahmoud Abbas himself. He is now, I think, in the 18th year of his 4-year terms. There are no elections, largely due to his unpopularity because he knows he will lose, doesn't know what to do about no elections in Gaza either. That's never been resolved. And so now I think at the latest polls, they showed something like 90% of Palestinians in the West Bank don't want him there anymore. So I think that all of that feeds in to the revitalized, revamped Palestinian Authority, maybe not with Mahmoud Abbas.
Irris, week 10 of the war, since Tuesday, we're seeing the first real public airings of differences between the U.S. president and the Israeli prime minister. We heard that little clip there at the outset from Jake Sullivan. Behind closed doors, what's the feeling?
What the Israeli media is reporting is that, yes, there is pressure, and you could hear it in that clip, very politely expressed, but the next phase, it's time for the next phase. And I guess they've got till after the Christmas holidays, maybe that long, and then the next phase, which is what Washington wants to see and has described as more targeted attacks on Hamas leaders, better supplies, for Palestinian civilians, and they're trying to organise that right now, especially as the winter's setting in, but for all the reasons that we've discussed, the displacement, the lack of shelter, the lack of food, the depression and misery of the civilians squashed into ever smaller parts of the Gaza Strip as the fighting takes over. So for all those reasons, and I have heard Israeli military analysts saying that really Israel is dependent on American arms and American weapons. So they need them for the next phase. And especially if there's going to be a next phase with Lebanon, which is something I'm sure they also discussed, what's going to happen with the northern border. So for all those reasons, when in the end, when Washington clicks its fingers, then people here will jump, even though they might say they're not jumping and they might do it very slowly and not immediately, they will jump.
Has the finger clicking already begun? I asked the question because Wednesday we saw the Wall Street Journal reporting that the U.S. had frozen the sending of some 27,000 rifles for Israeli police. This over concerns they could wind up in the hands of extremist Israeli West Bank settlers.
Yes, I think that's a sign, if you like. I don't think those 27,000 automatic rifles will break the bank, given the billions of dollars in aid that Israel is expecting and will receive. But I think it's a sign, a little, we take this seriously. We take it seriously with regard to the extremist settlers in the West Bank, something that has had an influence in Europe as well, with visas for them, as well as not sending these rifles to Israel in case they fall into their hands. But I think it is also a sign. We take this seriously, and we take our political vision, our diplomatic vision seriously, and we expect you to take us seriously too.
Yeah, the U.S. cautioning Israel on its image with the international community. This Friday, we saw images of a photojournalist working for the Turkish news agency getting roughed up. He had to be treated in hospital.
That's right, he did. Mustafa Haruf, well known in Jerusalem. And I don't have very many details, But I mean, when you see it, it's quite striking that you felt like they dealt with him. Then he was threatened with live fire, and somebody went back and basically just started kicking him. He had to be hospitalized. Since then, maybe because it was all caught on camera, I don't want to sound cynical, but because the whole world can see this, these two officers have been suspended, and there is an investigation by the formal body that investigates police malpractice that has been opened as well.